For only the 8th time since 1974, there is a brand new Volkswagen Golf. There it is, look, with its more distinctive, more modern front end than the previous Mark 7 Golf. Before we get stuck in, have you subscribed to the CarGurus YouTube channel yet? Go on, tap that subscribe button. Here's the big question though, is the new Mark 8 Golf actually better looking than the previous one? Well, you can make your own minds up. Here's the Mark 8, okay, and now we'll switch back to the Mark 7. There it is, familiar old Mark 7 Golf, and now back to the 8. You see, I actually think the Mark 7's design, though it's less ambitious, is actually better looking. The new Mark 8 is actually closely related to the Mark 7. They share a platform and many of the engines are carried over, although some of the petrol units are now available as mild hybrids. So what's new about this latest model? Well, there's the exterior styling, of course, plus an entirely revamped cabin and lots of new tech, more of which in a moment. Now, this particular Golf is a very basic one. It's the Golf Life with a 1.5 litre TSI petrol engine, good for 128 brake horsepower. Volkswagen says this particular model will be the best seller, and it starts at £23,900. With this engine, it'll do 0 to 62 miles per hour in 9.2 seconds and top out at 133 miles per hour. If you need a little bit more performance from your Golf, there is a version of this same engine with 148 brake horsepower. There's one important thing to keep in mind when choosing which Golf to go for. Basic models like this one have a simple torsion beam rear suspension arrangement. Mid and top spec models have a more sophisticated multi-link setup. Honestly, most people won't notice the difference, but if ride and handling are important to you, you certainly will. Now this is where the new Golf starts to feel exactly that, new. This whole dashboard is dominated now by these two 10-inch digital screens. They're both standard on all models in the UK. This central screen here is mounted much higher than before. In the Mark 7 it was down here in the middle of the dash somewhere. And look, there are hardly any physical buttons. Up here you've got these touch-sensitive sliders for things like the heating and the volume, with a little cluster of buttons here as well. But basically everything is within that central touchscreen. Frankly, I prefer physical buttons, things like rotating knobs that you can use without actually having to take your eye off the road to see what you're doing. This whole infotainment system, though, is very easy to navigate. If you can use a smartphone, this will be no problem whatsoever. And there's quite a cool trick. It's got this gesture control. So if you can't be bothered to swipe the screen yourself, you can just do this. Give me physical buttons and rotating knobs, but this does seem to be the way that the industry is going as a whole. So what about all that new technology? One of the really clever functions is called Car2X. It means the Golf can share information with other road users and traffic infrastructure, so it can alert you about hazards on the road ahead, such as broken down cars, as well as traffic jams, and even approaching emergency vehicles. Very trick. It's also got all sorts of driver assistance systems, such as lane keep assist, which frankly, I find so annoying I have to turn it off every journey, plus traffic sign recognition and front assist, which spots hazards in the road ahead of you and can bring the car to a complete stop if you don't do so yourself. So what else then? Well, the cabin is no roomier than before, for good reason. That's because this Mark 8 actually uses the same platform as the previous Mark 7, although cabin space wasn't a problem then and it's not a problem now. Interior quality, the materials, mostly they feel pretty good. There are some scratchier plastics around here though. And just a word on the seating position. There's lots of adjustment in the seat itself, but if I've got my seat where I want it so that my legs are comfortable, I feel like I'm just stretching for the steering wheel a little bit. I want it to come an inch closer. And look, with my shoulders against the seat back, I can't quite reach the touchscreen. That means every time I want to do anything, it's lean forward. That might get tiresome. So what's this Golf actually like to drive? Well, it's very easy to drive for one thing. Light steering, really good visibility. It's a comfortable car generally. On the motorway it's very civilized and refined. The ride quality is pretty good. This particular car is on dinky little 16-inch wheels and they're wrapped in big fat squidgy tyres, and that helps the ride quality. On bigger wheels, 17-inch or 18-inch wheels, the ride quality would degrade slightly. We'll come back to ride in just a moment. I do have one particular gripe, and that's to do with the action of the clutch pedal. There's something about the way it comes back out that makes it very difficult to pull away smoothly and also to change gear smoothly. And what about that torsion beam rear suspension arrangement? Are you aware of it? Well, sometimes. As I've said, the ride quality is pretty good on these 16-inch wheels. The car deals with a slightly bumpy road surface really well, although when you get transverse ridges or roadwork repairs that run across the road, you do feel the rear of the car thumping and clattering quite heavily over them, where I'm sure the multi-link car wouldn't, and that just makes the car feel slightly less comfortable than it would do otherwise. The steering is very accurate, although I'm sure it's not quite as communicative as before. Generally though, this car handles really well. It feels nicely balanced. There's a fair amount of body roll in corners, but that's okay. Good body control. There's lots of grip, and it's a very easy car to hustle along a winding road. Actually, it's quite good fun to drive. This isn't the least powerful engine VW offers, but at times it can feel just a touch breathless. Well, it does feel a bit breathless sometimes, such as when you're joining a fast motorway or driving up a very steep hill or something. You do have to use quite a lot of the performance, and then you do sense the engine straining against the weight of the car. But for the vast majority of the time, this engine is more than adequate. I think for most drivers, this 128 brake horsepower motor will be plenty, partly because it's got so much torque and it pulls quite hard. At motorway speeds, it's refined, it's civilized, it's pretty economical, and the manual gear shift, while the clutch pedal action is a little bit frustrating, the shift itself is light and easy and slick. VW says this car will return 52.6 miles per gallon combined. In my experience, the real world figure isn't too far away from that. So is this new Golf a game changer for the hatchback sector? No. No, it's really not. It's no better to drive than the previous car. It's not a great deal more economical. To me, it doesn't even look as good. However, it does have all that clever new technology within the cabin, and when it's all said and done, it is still one of the best family hatchbacks you can buy, just like the previous Golf. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, and remember as well to head to cargurus.co.uk, where you'll find a great deal on your next used car from a top-rated dealer.